these call stories we're looking at, right? These moments where God calls people who maybe aren't perfect. Well, actually, there's no maybe. They aren't perfectly qualified at first, but it's a journey that God's inviting him to learn and grow into this call. The church has not been, historically, the best at lifting up stories of call involving women. I think Mary, we had on Sunday, is one of the few exceptions. But it's not that because they're not there in Scripture. Deborah's called, Elizabeth's called, Hannah's called. There are a bunch of examples, but I want to make sure to get one in this week. And in fact, I wanted to pick one that perhaps gets skipped over, and I think it's a shame because I think her call story is more similar. By the way, welcome to coffee. More similar than, I'm fired up. More similar than some of these other ones, right? I don't know about you. I don't think I'm going to encounter a burning bush, or some guy's going to come to my dad's house and ask to anoint me king, or there's some other dramatic stories we'll get to. No. It's more God calling in the margins. God calling us in moments where we have a chance to act, where we have a chance to do something of consequence, and we have a choice whether or not to respond. The Book of Esther, Queen Esther herself. She's called. I'm in chapter 4, by the way. If you're looking for a nice story, maybe post-Christmas, you could read before Christmas, why not? It's the story of God. It's all connected. Esther, nice little book in the Old Testament, good narrative, got a little bit of everything, good story. Anyway, chapter 4. The Mordecai's the priest, and he's encountered this plan of Haman to destroy the Jewish people. Esther is a queen living in a foreign land who most likely tried to marry against her will. And so Mordecai comes to her telling her, I have proof that the Jewish people are going to get wiped off the map here, living in this kingdom. And I'm in verse 7 and 8. He's explaining this. And they talk to her, right? This is the plan. Do you not think that the king's palace you will escape any more than all other Jews? For if you keep silence at such a time as this, relief and deliverance will rise for the Jews for another quarter, but you and your father's family will perish. Who knows? Perhaps you have come to royal dignity for such time such as this. Right? This is the ask, the call, right? And now, we need to give Esther some context. So it's easy to be like, wow, that sounds horrible. That's going to be mass genocide. We should do something. It's not always that easy, right? There's a reason genocides are allowed to happen in this world. Esther's, while she's the wife of the king, wives can be replaced. In fact, they often are in these times. You do not please your king? Goodbye. King Henry VIII style, if you know what I'm talking about. Your property. You really don't have a say. She's a foreigner as it is. If maybe the priests of the kingdom, whatever, get whiff of what she's doing, off with her head. Right? So there's a lot of risk for her here in this story. And yet, she answers the call. Despite risk, possible death, alienation, torture, all these terrible things, she goes forward. She tells them to gather them up, and I will go to the king, though it is against the law, and if I perish, I perish. If I die, in the words of Rocky IV. She knows that what she's doing is risky, but she knows it's right. She's heard God's call through the words of her friend and ally in this case. She is in the normal everyday, right? We have opportunities like that too. There are times in our life that perhaps we hear a call. Maybe it's something happening in the news. Maybe it's something we hear from a friend or someone in the church, right? And we have a choice. We can respond even though it might be risky for us, following God's call, right? Just like Moses, just like David, we have to trust that God's going to provide. That we continue to seek and do what is right and answer God's calls. For God does not call the qualified, but qualifies the called. And here Esther is someone who outsiders would have told you had no business doing what she does. But, spoiler alert, if you're going to read the rest of it, it works out for her. All right. We have one more. A Christmas Eve special with a New Testament duo.